Hello everyone and happy Mother's Day. This is Farmer Amy here on the Urban Farmstead, and I have with me.
Hello, Farmer Mike here.
And we want to wish everyone a happy Mother's Day. We did have a few requests for a kind of tour of the farmstead, so we're going to do a quick tour for you guys and try to answer any questions that you have. This is our first time trying to do this, so bear with us. I've got Farmer Mike's phone here with the comments and questions, and then we'll try to answer them as we go along. So I'm starting here on our deck where we have mostly, let's see if I can get these here. These are our seedlings here that are waiting to be planted, and these did come from a local nursery because they're a little bit further along than some of the seeds that I had. Had a little bit of trouble. We're still learning as we go with certain types of seeds, and I went ahead and just picked up those. But these are where you'll see our plants that are still waiting to be put into their final places. We've got some fruit trees here that we picked up locally, and on the back here you will see my herb boxes. Some of these are coming back. This is actually from last year. Some of them are, as you can see, dead, but it looks like we still have some new growth here with some of them. So I think because we had such a mild winter, we're actually going to end up with a lot of them coming back this year. So I put them, I've got, like I said, just these are meant to go on top of a handrail. So they work really well for us. Let me see if I can just silence that so we don't have that interruption again. And I will show you one other quick tip before I go to the back of the property. This is one of my favorite little mint plants here. And what I do, as you can see, is I actually have this underneath the air conditioner. Mint loves lots of water, and so I hate wasting water. And this is just an easy way for us to have a mint plant and have that water that's coming out of the air conditioning unit being used, because it's sucking moisture out of the house all summer, and that waters this, makes a very happy mint plant. Alright, so now we'll go to the back of the property. I've got my helpers here, kind of.
Whole team of helpers.
Yeah, whole team of helpers. Oh, I also have, as you can see here, these are my tomato plants that are hardening off. And I will show you this. This is a new experiment for me. This is one of the problems with tomato plants. When you're hardening them off, you're moving them around a lot, and so sometimes you'll have plants break off, as this one did right here. You can see it just broke right off. And so what I ended up doing is taking the whole top of that plant and putting it into the soil, so that it could try to grow some roots. I don't know how closely you can see, but tomato plants have hairs all along their stems here, and each one of those has the potential to grow roots. So I thought, we'll give it a shot. This has actually been trying to grow for a couple days now, and I'm really pleased so far with the results. I trimmed off what leaves it had on it because those were kind of wilting. It didn't have enough energy to actually support the leaves, but my thinking is that this will be able to grow some roots. Right now it's focusing on the roots, and then hopefully start growing some leaves out the top, and we may be able to save that one. So it's, like I said, it's an experiment in progress. We'll see how that goes, and I'll give you guys some updates. Here's a different shot, just really quickly, of the herbs from this side. This is going to be cleaned out, refreshed, and I'll put basil in this. But you can see my oregano, my thyme. I've got some lovage, some sage, some mint, and then this, and probably the two empty ones there will end up being basil. So we're going to start the tour here with what I think is one of the most important things that we actually added last year. This is the compost bin that Farmer Mike built. You might have seen this on one of the YouTubes that we have done. We previously used the just some small barrel compost, and we produce enough with the grass and the leaves and things like that it's just we needed something larger. We really did. So we have a 2-bin system here. This one is the one we were using last year. We put branches and wood chips and things like that, as well as any of the grass clippings. And so now that's going to sit for this whole next year. And we're starting to use, as Kayla is going to show you, the other bin. So that's the one that we're actually going to be using live this year, while this one composts. And we'll have to continue to turn that, but by next year, next spring, we should be able to add that in with our soil. All right, so then I'll walk you up to our little shed here. This is our little shed that we use that houses our small lawnmower. It's kind of messy, as you can see, but it's where I keep all my trucks, as well as the additives and things like that I use around the farmstead. We've got some shovels and assorted rakes and things like that here. And then also all of my hand tools that I use in the garden, the scoops. These are all bits and pieces that fit into a system that uses this large, the large handle, as well as, where's my short handle? Oh, here it is. It's hiding underneath the short handle here. So you can use their interchangeable tools. We paid a little bit more for this system, but it works really well because you only need, one handle to use all the tools. This is the smaller handle, which works really well for the raised beds, and then the longer handle, the 6-foot handle, I guess it's not 6 foot, 5-foot handle, for the in ground beds. All right. So that gives you a little idea of our little tool shed. We also keep some of the tools and stuff, or not tools, but the most of our starter, what do you call those? The starter, I can't even think of the term now. For our starters, our seedling starters. Yeah. The containers is what I was thinking of. Most of those we keep in the garage just because they're a little closer.
The seed trays?
Yeah, the seed trays. Thank you very much. So we have those, as well as the actual flats that we carry them around on. All right, I think maybe we're back. Can you see now?
Yeah.
Okay. We had a little bit of technical difficulties here. I think we're back. But anyhow, this is our soil bed that we have, and this is where we keep all of our topsoil. The ground that we had here, honestly, the soil wasn't that great when we started. So we actually purchased some soil, and obviously we're composting and mixing in other additives and things like that as well to enrich the soil. But that's where we keep all of the leftovers that we have for using to mix. So we've got topsoil here, and then next to it you'll see the mulch pile that we have. And like I said, this is some pretty heavily composted mulch, so wood chippings or things like that. And we are letting that kind of decompose to provide us with a little bit richer, nutrient-rich soil.
And that's Bob Jones are watching.
Oh, hi guys! And it looks like Deborah is too. I don't know if she's, I know she's the one who requested this, so hope you guys are enjoying. All right, so we'll go over here and start showing you what we're actually growing. So we have, I think you guys have probably seen the project we started the other day. This is our berry patch, as we call it. And if you didn't see that video, you can check it out on YouTube, on our YouTube channel for the Urban Farmstead. But this has been kind of a hot mess for the last couple of years. So this spring we took all of the berries out that we could.
Hi, Deborah.
Oh, and hey, Deborah. So yeah, we took all the berries out. We mowed down any of the grass and weeds that were here. Installed the weed blocker, as you can see, this black weed blocker here, and then reinstalled everything that we could. So we have a whole mix of berries, because you guys have asked about like what kinds of berries. Let's see, it says Tom. Oh, so apparently you're gonna see Mark on Tuesday. I see this popping up. So we have a whole host of different berry plants here, and I'll try to go through some of them for you. This is a blueberry here. We have these are the what am I trying to say? These are the goji berries here. The nice these come out a little bit earlier in the spring, so they've got their leaves already. You'll notice the blueberries are a little bit slower to come out. Can you see the berries okay? It's hard to see what we're seeing and what we're not.
Yeah, we can see.
Okay. These guys encroaching.
10-second delay though, so.
Oh, okay. These guys encroaching here are blackberries. As you can see, they're very happy little blackberry plants in the background. So we need to do a little bit of work on those, but they just are kind of taking over the back fence here. These are all different varieties of blueberries. As you've heard me say before, I really try to purchase different varieties as well, because I think that helps them not only be healthier, but also it helps them to be more disease resistant. So we got blackberries all along the back. These are mostly blueberries. We do have, this is a cranberry here, an American cranberry bush. This and this are the two blueberries you saw me plant. This one's not looking quite so healthy, so it's got a couple leaves on it. It may go dormant, we may lose it. It's kind of hard to tell at this point, but we'll just cross our fingers and hope for the best. Give it a little love and attention. This is another brand new blueberry that we got this year. This is another cranberry. And then we've got a couple that we've lost here on the ends as well. These back here are our raspberry bushes, and you can see they're already starting to come in with some green. So we've got raspberry bushes, and then this is one of our largest row of strawberry plants. And you can see we've already got some beautiful little flowers coming up. So we should be getting some beautiful little strawberries here probably in about a month or so. And there are multiple different varieties in here. Yeah, we need to do a little bit of weeding, but there are multiple different varieties in here. The ones that are bearing now are early grow strawberries, so they're the ones that are going to grow in June and provide berries in June. But then we also have ones that are called ever-bearing, so they're all kind of mixed in together. But the ever-bearing will be providing us with strawberries all summer long. So that's why you see some flowers but some not, because they're going to be flowering at different times. And the idea behind that for us is that we don't want just one large harvest of strawberries. We really would like to have strawberries that we can sustain our family throughout the year. So that's kind of the idea behind that. And then I'll go down here and show you our rows. You might have seen the other night I was talking about, this is our carrot row here. I'll be planting carrots in this row. Well, since we had such cold weather the last couple days, I may give it a couple more days and just make sure that we're not going to have another May snowstorm. But I'll be planting carrots in almost this entire bed. The end will probably have some of the cabbages that you saw up on the porch, but they will be planted in this row. Anything else you want to add there? No? Okay. And not a whole heck of a lot to show for this row. This row right here is looking very dead at the moment, but in the next couple days to a week, I'll come out and probably do another video on this one. I'll be rejuvenating the soil and this is our row where we plant peppers. So this entire row will be made up of peppers, except for this kind of archway you see here with what looks like a magically floating flower bed up in the top there. But that is where we will be planting our cucumbers. And they will grow both up over the arch, and we'll plant some up in the top of this potter up here, and they will also grow down. So they'll grow both up and down at the same time. And then the idea behind it is that this provides the structure so that they can grow up over the arch, and it becomes quite full. If you've seen some of our pictures from the previous years, it tends to be very, very full, and it makes it a little easier to harvest the cucumbers. Especially if you have, like, a couple years we planted the really small Mexican cucumbers, and they're like grape size, so they just kind of hang down, which is really nice to be able to harvest them that way. But also, this is a good way for us to utilize the space, because as you can see, we've got a decent sized yard for a suburban area, but at the same time, I always say we're planting by the square inch as opposed to by the acre. So we try to use all of our space, including vertical space as well. Now along the back, you'll see hydroponics buckets. We are probably not going to be using those this year. We have in the past, but we've got some, I don't know. We'll have to see with all the plans that we have versus what happens with the COVID virus and everything. But it looks like we're going to have a pretty busy summer, so we're planning to not do the hydroponics this year, but you'll see a couple different hydroponics that are going to end up being probably empty this year.
The trailer over here.
Yeah, so this is another hydroponics trailer that Farmer Mike has actually designed and built himself. And I think you did a video on that, didn't you?
I did. I don't think I published it. Probably should, but
yes, you should. For anybody who's interested.
I upgraded it. I guess now it was a year and a half ago with some upgrades because it was leaking on occasion, and so I fixed that. So I'm looking forward to trying it again, and seeing it really grows everything really well. Unless of course it runs out of water, and then. And you let it go for more than a day like that, it can actually will die. Everything
dies off very quickly. So that's the main thing. We just have to be able to stay on top of it. It takes a little bit more maintenance than things that are in the soil. Things that are in the soil. We've got irrigation systems that we have created and installed. Which help out a lot. I'm all about reducing the amount of workload that we have during the summertime.
Yes, the advantages of hydroponics are that everything grows really fast, which helps us on our really short
lack of sun in the short growth season.
Yeah, we have a lot of. It's hard to see in the video, but the one spot we're standing in, and then the spot where the trees are really the only two spots in the yard that get enough sun to actually grow anything. There used to be another row on the other side of the garlic that
we can show them that
we just took away because nothing grew there.
Nothing grew there, and it ended up being basically food for slugs because it just didn't get enough sun. It got enough to just grow like weeds and grass and things like that, but not any of the crops that we were trying to put in. So the hydroponics definitely helps out with that, but the disadvantage is that their roots are exposed because you're planting. You can actually see. This is one of the old ones from last year, but their roots are just right there, and they're exposed constantly as if the water is not running, because the water level runs to about here, and it just constantly runs through these pipes, which is why they're on a slant like this. So it works great as long as you have the time and energy to maintain it and stay on top of it. But that also means someone monitoring it and checking it every couple days, and then making adjustments to it and feeding it at least once a week. And we're just not sure we're going to have that kind of time. So the soil gives us an advantage in that once we put it in the ground, the soil provides the nutrients. And even if our water irrigation system fails, we also have the benefit of rain. So it gives us a little bit of break in regards to that. All right, so this is what we call row 2, which is right next to the pepper row. You'll see this is entirely got cold frames all the way down it at the moment, and that's because of the cold weather that we got, the snow we got yesterday, which was very unexpected. But can you help me raise these? We'll show you, we'll take a peek inside. This is my radish bed, and you can see we actually have some little radishes starting to grow there. That one, you know, is maybe another week or two and it'll be time to harvest. I have both an English breakfast, which is a taller radish. It grows more elongated, and also some of these, which are like the Easter blend, and they'll produce purple and pink, just really pretty colors, but they're more the globe, traditional shaped radish that you would expect. So you can see another one there. It's a lighter pink. So those we'll probably start having something we can harvest in those in the next week or two. And then I'll give you this shot for my lettuce. These here are some of the lettuces that I started indoors as seedlings. Pull out that little weed there. So we've got, these are a little bit more mature. These are ones I actually started in the soil here. So some of them are actually starting to catch up. Just, you know, we've had some lovely days with sun, and the soil is, like I've told you before, very rich because of the nutrients we put in it. So between that and the warm weather, we've had a lot of good growth. And lettuce, surprisingly, is a very hardy plant. So it's one of the things I plant, one of the crops that we plant the earliest. Yeah. And right next to it, you'll see some of my beets coming up. And as I showed you on one of the other videos, I've done some replanting here, but most of this is just going to be weeds that I have to do a little bit of weeding, a little bit of maintenance in here. And the seedlings should be coming up in probably another day or two. Again, this is beets. And I think, can you see okay on that? Yeah, ish. Alrighty. And so this,
fuzzy for some reason. I wonder, can you switch to the forward camera maybe?
I don't think I can switch it. Nope, I can't switch it now that it's live. So at least if I can, I don't know how to do it. So we'll just do the best we can with what we have. So these are, again, some more beets. We usually fill this entire row with mostly beets. So even, can you hold this for me? So even the areas down there that have radishes now, those will end up being ready to harvest in about a month. Well, I say they'll start being ready to harvest in about 2 weeks. And then we'll probably harvest all of them in about a month to 6 weeks time. And then I will pull out whatever is not ready at that point, and we'll plant something else. We'll replant it with beets. That gives us not only enough beets to can, because I do a lot of canning, but that will also give us enough beets to have multiple harvests, so they're coming in at different times. And I'll use different breeds that take different lengths of time, varying lengths of time to come to harvest. So the ones that have a much shorter time to harvest, I'll put down there in the radishes after we pull the radish bed out. So this is, again, some more beets, and then what you haven't seen come up yet, because I just planted them, I think, earlier this week, are some turnips right in here. Planted there and also here, so a little bit outside the cold frame, but they are very cold hardy, so they should come up. And then, as I said before, we'll also, along this back edge here, we'll plant cucumbers, and then they'll grow up this archway. And then this is, we kind of went backwards to forwards, I guess. This is what we call row 1, where we have in the past planted our onions as well as garlic. And what we decided was that they grow well over here, but they'll also grow well in the other bed, where we'll show you in just a minute. So these are actually all left over from the previous year. And if you watched the previous YouTubes, I've said I hate waste. So as opposed to just pulling these out as weeds, I replanted them all in this corner because they've got, as you can see, a very healthy start to the year. I will probably be able to pull these out in a month or two, you know, maybe 3, and then put some additional lettuce in here that's a short growing crop. And then along the back here is where we plant our peas, and the peas will go all the way down. As you can see, we've got this trellis in. The peas will grow all the way down this row and grow up towards my herbs. And then I have here some lettuce, and again, this is one I got from a local nursery, so don't be too jealous, because I was worried my initial seeds had a problem with the first round of seeds. They died off on me, so they weren't as far along as I had hoped. So these are some that I grabbed at the local nursery. And then from here all the way down to the end of the row is where I planted our kohlrabi. Now, if you haven't heard me talk about kohlrabi yet, it is one of my favorite plants. I was just introduced to it about 3 or 4 years ago. My sweet late mother-in-law used to always call them an alien plant because they look like an alien plant. They have a globe for the base, and then these long stems that go up with leaves on top. The entire top of the plant, like the leaves and the stem, are edible. The globe is also edible. The only part that's not is the peel around the outside. It's like a rind around the outside. But otherwise, very delicious. They taste a bit like a mild cabbage, but they, on the inside, once you get the rind of them off, it kind of looks like a potato, and it has the consistency of a potato. So kind of interesting. Definitely recommend that you check it out. If you can't find it at your local supermarket, you can probably find them at one of the local farm stands. But they're really tasty and an interesting crop. So that's definitely something we've added. We've had better luck with that, actually, than with our cabbages. So I always plant some kohlrabi, and I tend to substitute it in my recipes because the leaves are more like that of a cabbage. And then here on the end, this is the strawberry bed, the small strawberry bed that I replanted just about a week or two ago. I did another video for you guys on that. You can see these are some very happy, healthy strawberries coming up, and by the end of the season I expect this entire bed to be full and potentially have some berries come from it as well. The reason that I do this is because strawberries really only bear well for about 3 years. So I do plant some extras in the large bed over there, just to kind of fill in the bare spots, but then I know these are good for the next 3 years, and then in 3 years time I'm going to pull these out just like I did this year, put them over in the large bed and start over again. So that way I'm making sure I'm kind of reinfusing our strawberry patch with fresh plants every couple years to make sure we continue to get a good crop. So those are our 4, well, I guess 5 raised beds that we have here. Let me see if I can get a larger shot for you. Here in the main grow area. Can you see?
All you really see is that right there.
Oh. Here, I'll try to pan it around a little bit for you.
You want me to do this?
No, I got it, I think. Okay, and then let me show you the garlic bed that we have. And this is the bed that Farmer Mike was just talking about, that we had a row here and then another row actually right here that we've just taken out and haven't really reseeded or anything with it yet, but we plan to. But this is where our garlic is growing very healthy and strong right now. Some of you might wonder why the heck we have the white plastic fencing, and it's because while the plants are small, our little helpers here, one of which is standing over here, and one of which is over there sniffing grass and stuff, don't have a whole heck of a lot of respect for any of the plants while they're in the ground. They love the end result, especially the carrots, but while the plants are still young and growing, they don't have a whole heck of a lot of respect for them, and if they see birds or squirrels, they're very protective and will go charging after them right through the baby plants. So at least for the beginning of the year, we have to have just some temporary fencing up to remind them, hey, stay out of the beds of garlic and onions. But we did move the garlic over here this year. It's doing, I'm very pleased with how it's doing. Is our first year growing it here. We made
planted this. You said I planted last fall, right?
No, I did not. Why don't you mention that?
Oh, so yeah, I planted this row last fall. It was I don't know when it was, September, October.
It's usually around October. Yeah, that you want to make sure you get it in before the first real cold freeze that we have. Get it in the ground then. Garlic takes a good 90 plus days. 90 to like 120 days, I think, something like that, to harvest. So what we found is it's better to plant, in New England at least, it's better to plant the garlic in the fall as opposed to trying to wait for the spring, because you never know when the ground is going to get soft enough and warm enough to actually plant it. So it'll start growing as soon as the ground is warm enough, but you don't really necessarily want to come out and start working it that early. So we find it's better to plant it in the fall, and then it grows as it can as the sun starts to warm up the soil.
The only thing you have to watch out about in the winters here in New England is it will push the bulbs out of the ground.
Good point.
And then the squirrels and stuff will tend to move them around. They don't really like garlic. Garlic is one of the...
It's one of the bulbs they don't like, in fact.
Right, it's one good way to keep them out of your garden, or out of your bulb garden. But they'll still look at them. If they're up and they can see them, they'll look at them and move them around. So you just have to, you see them getting pushed up in the spring, you just push them back down in. I did that with several over here that made their way up out of the ground, and I just pushed them back in, and they'll just start growing whenever they're ready.
Yeah, and like you said, they'll a lot of times tend to, when we get those really hard frosts and it compacts the soil and pushes it together, the clove might come up. But really, if you are looking for an easy entry-level gardening crop, this is the best. I mean, I was a little bit leery of starting it when we did it the first time 3 or 4 years ago. But actually, I just had some extra garlic from the grocery store, I'm sad to say. I had some extra cloves, stuck it in the ground, and don't you know, those things came up. And I was like, oh my goodness, I can do this. This is so easy. So since then, we've started buying them, obviously, and getting different varieties. But super, super simple to grow. You put them in the ground in the fall. I usually use some of our leaves. We mulch up in the fall and cover them a little bit, but they come up on their own when they're ready in the spring, and you let them grow until the top 2/3 of these leaves die. And when that happens, you pull them out of the ground and you let them dry, and that's it. That's how you get your garlic cloves. They will also produce the garlic scapes. If any of you go to the farmers markets and love the garlic scapes are the actual flowers that start to come up. You'll see them come up. Honestly, they'll probably start coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
As big as these guys are, they'll probably start coming up in a couple weeks. And I'll try to do a video to show you those. But you'll notice they look very distinct and different. They'll come up because these have kind of flat leaves. But they will come up with very round leaves, and they'll have a little bulb on the end, and you want to snip those off. Those are the flowers. You don't want to let garlic flower unless you want it to go to seed, because it won't grow the actual bulb. So a little helpful tip there. You want it to focus all of its energy on growing the bulb, so you'll cut the scapes off, but you can use them. You can buy them at the farmers markets, but you can also, if you're growing it yourself, just cut them off and use them any way you would garlic. So,
a couple of them may already have the...
Yeah, they're probably getting close. But we moved these over to this row because it gets such little sun. And as you can see, they're very happy and doing very well. But we have to get them in because by midsummer, this area, by this time of day, will already be in shade here. It spends a lot of time in shade, and so we don't get as much sun that we need for some of the other plants that we grow. So we're going to put those here. As you saw me talk about on Friday night or Thursday night, I prepared this corner area over here, we'll put some cabbages and celery that you saw up on the deck. That's what I'll be planting there. And then this area here is designed to be just for flowers. We started that a couple years ago, as well as this small little bed here will be for bulb flowers. Not doing as well as I'd hoped, but you know, we did have some really nasty weather, so I'll probably redo this this year, put some more bulbs in, kind of clean it up a little bit. Again, everything kind of looks dead right now, so maybe we'll do another one of these tours a little bit later on once everything is planted in the ground and it starts getting nice and green. But one thing I did want to point out with the flower beds, before I was all about like economizing the space and not spending any time and space on flowers, because I think, oh, they're pretty, but they don't really do that much for my garden. But what we noticed over the past couple years of having the flower bed in here is that it really helps bring the pollinators to our yard, and those do help. So we've dedicated some space to the flowers, and we've got a couple different types. So we've got both the bulb and the seeds that we'll plant. And then I'm going to walk you over to our last big bed, and we put this in, when did we put this in? 2 years ago? I think?
Yeah,
2 years ago. And this looks kind of gross right now. This is, again, another hydroponics. It's a different type of hydroponics system that we have installed. We've had a lot of success with that for our tomatoes, as well as our pumpkins and squashes. And in this long bed here, we will be planting our squashes and pumpkins this year, as well as our tomatoes. We're not using the hydroponics this year for the reasons I already stated. If you're wondering, like what we have here, these are actually wires that you'll notice in most of our bed for heating the soil. I try to put them in, at least these are kind of just on top of the ground. Doesn't really matter if they're on top of the ground or in the ground. They work better in, but I try to keep them in over the fall so that I have a way of warming up the soil faster when we're ready to plant in the spring. And these are our soaker hoses that we have in all of the beds. You might not have seen them in all the beds, but that's because the beds are already prepared, and the soaker hoses and the wires, once we prepare the beds, they'll be underneath the soil, so you won't see them. So the plan for this bed this year is, again, probably a small stretch of lettuce, tomatoes along the back. We're going to put in a structure here to help with the tomatoes growing up. In the past, we've used just a single rope, and we jokingly call this the gallows because it kind of looks like a giant gallows. We kind of wondered what the neighbors thought when we put it in, but we're going to be putting in a fence this year as a structure so that the tomato plants have a better way of coming up. The ropes have worked okay, but again, it's just additional work, and I said to Farmer Mike, we just don't need to constantly having to reinstall those every single year. If we put the fence in, it'll be a one-time thing and we're done.
To speak to the hydroponics, though, when we had the hydroponics up and running, we had tomatoes. I mean, you could see the vines and stuff. There were squash that were hanging off of the ropes that are up there that were going from one side all the way over to the other side. Yeah. So I mean, the hydroponics, especially out here in the natural sunlight, will really help your plants take off, and they go crazy, and they'll overgrow the area before you even know it.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it looks like, why would you build a structure so tall? I mean, this is really super tall, but we literally have, I've got a picture of Farmer Mike in the bucket of a tractor up on top of this thing picking tomatoes. And again, I don't know that I necessarily need that many tomatoes this year, so we decided, you know what, hydroponics work, but we don't necessarily need to do them this year. So that was kind of our decision to not do the hydroponics this year. And then I'll just walk you to this side here. This is where the what? We've got an egg. Somebody's laid an egg in the hydroponics. I think you can see that maybe. Oh yeah, there we go. Little egg there. You want to point to it? Yeah. Kind of crazy. But we'll be putting the zucchini and squashes here. So this is where they will grow, and again, they'll have some structure to grow up, which will be lovely. And then last but not least, we have our orchard. We used to just call it the fruit trees, but now we actually call it an orchard because I looked it up, and technically, what is it? Six or more trees, I think. And this definitely qualifies as 6 or more trees. So we have quite a different variety here. You've heard me talk about this before. This is one of the, what is this? I think it's the this is the crab apple. So we got a crab apple here. This is a really great pollinator for all of our apple trees. What else do we have here? This is a plum. A Burbank plum. We have, just to give you some idea of the varieties we have, this is a summer red apple tree.
It's the 4-way apple tree.
Oh yeah, sorry, this is a 4-way apple tree. It's got 4, which it means it has 4 different types of apple growing off of it.
The one that Farmer Amy said, and then a couple others that have faded.
Faded to the point that we couldn't tell you what they are. But what that means is that each one of these is a graft, and so you have to watch, especially around the health of the grafts, to make sure that they stay healthy. It's very easy for a graft to then peel off and die. But this gives you a better variety. That's one of the reasons why they're kind of blooming at different times as well, and they'll be ready to harvest at different times.
This is another 4-way.
This is another crab apple here, which again is just a great pollinator. This is a wine sap apple. It's got a lovely, beautiful flower here. These are the nectarines that you may have seen me planting on one of the previous videos. This one's not looking quite so hot. I'm still hopeful that it'll bounce back. It's been in for quite a bit of a shock in the past 2 weeks. It was transported halfway across the country, planted by me, and then when it got snowed on last night. So they were in for a little bit of a shock, but they're still hanging in there. So I'm happy to see still some green leaves. This is the other nectarine you saw me plant. And you may be wondering like what these black devices are around the base. Farmer Mike, would you like to explain what the black devices are?
So they're called tree teepees. We saw them actually on a show called Shark Tank. Shark Tank.
Yep.
And they, what they do is we have a watering system. Here you can see it better on this one. These little watering sprinklers that come on and they'll water inside the tree, the bucket for the tree, and so it helps keep the water inside the actual where it needs to be, and it also helps keep out stuff like the weeds.
Yeah.
That are that tend to just fall, because you see we have all of these seeds that come off of our other trees, our neighbors' trees and everything, and then they fall in here, and unlike the seeds you plant out of a packet, they tend to take off like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you'll just weed and weed and weed and weed, and if you don't keep up with it, then you'll have an entire bucket full of weeds, and it just especially since we grow all of our trees here, not in the ground or in the soil, but rather in buckets,
yeah.
so that we can move them around if we need to. They used to be up there by the garlic, and we moved them
so they get more sun.
Yeah,
this is a sunnier spot.
And
yep.
It's really like one of those things you have to watch out for in an urban environment like this, is where you put your plants, because the sun can really determine how well they do.
Yeah,
we had,
absolutely.
The first year we had the orchard being up where it was over by the garlic, it just wasn't getting enough sun, and we lost probably 4 or 5 different trees that way. And as soon as I put them over here, they've taken off. Most of them. I dropped an apple tree. We used to have an apple tree over there on the other side, and it was every year it got apple blight, and it would drop blight onto these plants here, and then all of these I would have to use the natural blight spray on them in order to keep them from getting blight. So we just decided to take down the old crab apple tree that was in the far end of the yard, and I ended up dropping it on one of these trees, and I thought that I'd killed it, and I just had left it there like that.
We thought we were going to have to replace it the next year, and it came back. It shocked us both, and it came back.
It's actually...
We'll walk over there and see it in just a second. But I will say this, though. Like he was saying about the tree TP, not a sponsor, again, just a really helpful tool for us. But what we found is I'm all about, like I said, efficiency of time. I mean, this is a lot for two people to manage. It's a lot of farming to do in a small space. But that means we have to stay really vigilant as far as like the weeding and stuff like that. This really helps us not only with the weeding and helping to use less water to keep the trees, with water all year round, but it also helps protect them from the cold. So I wasn't as worried, like I said, about these trees with the snow in May, because it helps to protect their roots and keep them from dying when we have these really cold, brutal winters. So anyway, very helpful. We'll walk around the other side here and take a look. We have some additional plum trees. This is another variety of plum here. This is another tree that we just planted. This is the Cherry Sweetheart. It's looking a little weak, but we just realized that it needs some water, so we're going to water it. It's another new one to our orchard, so we'll keep a close eye on it this year, and hopefully it'll take off. Another variety of apple back here called a Liberty apple. This is one of our pear trees, and I did not see what it was. This is actually this is a four-way pear tree. So this is another one that has multiple different grafts on it, and you've heard us talk quite a bit about that in the different episodes. This is a dwarf sweet cherry, so another cherry tree, and it's called the Montmorency. So another one here. This is another pear tree. It's called an air pear tree. Not quite ready to it's not quite ready to bloom. I see some flowers up here on the top, so it's going to bear here or start blooming here in a little bit. This little guy who looks so sickly is the mulberry bush that we just got, and you remember me saying that I was a little bit concerned about it because it looked so weak. However, let me see if I can get this in here. As you can see, it's already starting to grow new leaves. This thing has only been in the ground for about a week. It's been through a snowstorm, it's been through shock, and it's already starting to grow new leaves. I can't believe that. I'm so pleased. So I think it's going to bounce back and be just fine. I've got a lot of hope for it. And this is
super sweet cherry.
A super sweet cherry, so a third variety of cherry that you've probably heard me talk about today.
This is the one that I dropped the tree on.
Oh yeah, this is the one that we thought was dead. We thought it was a goner. The apple tree that he ended up taking down was right back here. You can probably still see the stump. And when it fell, it managed to take this guy out. I think you can actually still see, like right here at the top. And we thought it was a goner for sure. And then it sprouted off. Oh no, maybe it was right here. But anyhow, it started sprouting more limbs. And it's doing great. So very pleased to see that. It actually has some flowers on it as well. So hopefully we'll get some cherries off of this year. This is it's a nectarine. Oops. I said we didn't have any nectarines, and apparently we did. This is the problem with, growing too many varieties, folks. You end up with more plants than you expected. I didn't think we had a nectarine, and now we have 3. So, oops. Anyhow, let's see what else we've got here. Does this one have? It's another apple, but I'm not sure what. I think this might be. Yeah, I'm not sure which flavor of apple this is. I have a couple. The only thing I have multiples of is the that I'm aware of, at least I should say, is I do have a couple of the Pink Lady apple variety. So you might see a couple of those in here mixed in. This is the Reliance Peach. This is a peach tree here. This is, I think, the Veteran Peach.
Yeah, another peach.
It's definitely another peach. No, I'm not sure. Oh, Red Haven peach. Sorry. And then we have, what is this? Is another apple?
Brayburn.
A Brayburn apple here. I think we did not hit this one in the back. This is a semi-dwarf. It's a Matsu apple tree here. I'm kind of trying to climb through the orchard now. And this is another variety of apple. I think this is another one of the Pink Ladies. And then this is that's a Montmorency cherry. I've already showed you. This is another variety of peach behind me. Which one is that?
Pink Lady.
Oh, here's a Pink Lady. Yeah. And the Pink Ladies, I just love the apples on this. So I've got, like I said, a couple different variety of the Pink Lady. I'm sorry, not variety, a couple different of the trees of the same variety. And then we've got the Liberty apple back there. So I think that kind of, oh, and then our newest additions, which haven't quite joined the rest yet, these are the hazelnut that you saw us planting on one of the other videos. They're sitting over there because the plan for the orchard this year, if you could see all of the grass and weeds that are growing in between the buckets here, it's a big chore. We're going to move all of these. We're going to, again, mow it down, and then we're going to put some weed blocker in to cover the ground cover again this year for the orchard. So what we did for the blueberry and the berry patch, we're going to do for the orchard as well. And I think that will really help because we have a lot of issues with weeds during the summertime. This is the primo spot for sun in our yard, which means that the grass grows really well too. But like I said, I'm all about efficiency, so if we can put some weed blocker down so we're not having to try to weed eat in between. And then when we do weed eat, it pulls out the watering hoses and things like that, and it just creates all kinds of other issues. I think that will really help. So you'll probably see that video. That's going to be, we'll shorten it for you so you don't have to sit through 3 or 4 hours worth of work. It'll probably be several hours of work on our part, but that is one of our big projects for this summer.
And if you're wondering what the Home Depot bucket's down here, not a sponsor, by the way.
They should be a sponsor, but they're not a sponsor.
These are pumpkins.
Yeah.
These are pumpkins, and they added to the hot mess that was the orchard here. But they really took off well because pumpkins, they have such broad leaves that they can grow with very little sunlight on them. In fact, they typically are used as shade for some other plants. But they did really well in here, and we grew some pretty large pumpkins. About one of our biggest was about, I think, about,
yeah, it's like 26 pounds,
26
I think,
pounds,
something like that. Yeah, you can look at some of our old photos. That was from 2 years ago. We did the pumpkins, and so we had the best pumpkins 2 years ago. Last year was kind of a rough year. Hopefully, we're hoping, fingers crossed, for some good pumpkins this year. We did kind of use them as a little bit of weed cover, though, just because, and ground cover to try to keep the weeds down. But this year we're gonna put the honest to goodness weed blocker in, and we're hoping to see some, some really positive results from that.
The other problem too was that the pumpkins in here tended to try and crawl. They crawl up the actual trees themselves. There were a couple that were hanging like up at this level on the tree, and I had to clip off the little feeler things that wrap their way around things.
They would twine themselves around the apple trees, and we're like, no, you cannot do that. So we had some very happy pumpkins that year. But anyhow, so that's our little farmstead for now, guys. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them to us or message us. We're happy to answer them. We appreciate you spending some of your time here on Mother's Day with us on the Urban Farmstead. And feel free to subscribe or send us any questions. We love to have the interaction with you guys. All right? Thanks so much for joining. Have a great day. Bye, guys.
Bye.